guys, this is Dan from Valley Marine, and I wanted to take a few moments today to talk to you about the different electronics packages that are being offered on new boats these days. A lot of manufacturers, especially boats built in the Midwest, are offering electronics packages on their boats where you're getting an electric motor and a fish finder at the dash. We also have another boat that we're going to go over today, and we're going to take a look at what we recommend as really kind of a minimum for most of the angling and the boating that we do in the Northwest. So to start out with, we're going to do two parts of this video. We're going to just take a quick look at both of these, and then we're going to get more detailed in each one. So work our way over here. On this particular boat here, this is actually a slightly upgrade over a base package because this has got a 5-inch GPS fish finder combo at the dash, and then it's got a 12-volt Minn Kota power drive on the bow of the boat. And then on this boat over here, we have a 7-inch GPS combo fish finder, and then a Minn Kota 24-volt iPilot on the bow of the boat. So in addition to the screen size differences between the two, this particular boat, we have a foot pedal, a corded foot pedal that can be used anywhere in the boat, but we are attached to this. So if we're trying to control the boat, we're stuck to this foot pedal. On this particular boat, we have a wireless controller. This particular boat has, the motor itself has GPS, so it's got iPilot capabilities, it's got anchor capabilities, a lot more control with this than you're going to have with this. I'm having to make manual course corrections all the time, and I'm going to be a lot more married to this controller. And then last thing is we're going to be looking at 12 versus 24 volt. Back to this part of the conversation we started with. Most of the manufacturers are offering a bow mount electric and a fish finder at the dash. Really a 12-volt system. We're going to show you today why it's not enough for out here in the way we use boats. On this particular setup right here, you're going to ask a cost difference probably to go to a 24-volt motor with an iPilot and a bigger screen. Probably going to run you probably around $1,200 more, but you get so much more with this setup. And when you consider whether you're buying a new or used boat, or you're just upgrading what you currently have, and you figure out what it costs you to go out and use your boat for a day on the water and how much you want to enjoy your time on the water, this setup right here, having a nicer screen, having a more powerful motor that's easier to control, this makes all the difference in the world. So make sure you're really paying attention to how the electronics are on the boat and what you're trying to accomplish. You're going to spend 80 to 90% of your time below 2 miles an hour on an average fishing boat. So if you're spending that much time at that low of a speed, it's really, really important to have the level of control that you want so that you can do more than just drive the boat. You're able to fish, you're able to relax, you're able to interact with the people and not just drive the boat. You're able to tie up another rod, make a sandwich, whatever that is. This is going to be a lot more enjoyable experience than running this. And I'm not talking boats, I'm talking the electronics packages. So really, really consider that. It's no different than if you look at the cell phone you have today. It's like, this is flip phone technology right here. This is my smartphone technology. You can imagine if you were to have to go back to your flip phone, what that would be like. This is going to give you your smartphone technology experience. Very enjoyable, fun time on the water, lots of control. This is 10-year-old technology right here. So really keep those things in mind when you're looking at boats or you're thinking about putting new electronics packages on your boat. Okay, hi everyone. So we are out in a new Lund 1650 Rebel, and this particular boat is equipped with a 55-pound thrust Minn Kota power drive motor. It's not an iPilot, it's just a standard power drive motor. And then we've got a Humminbird Helix 5. And this is actually a little bit nicer than some of the base electronics packages you're going to see on the market because this particular unit does have GPS. GPS, in my opinion, is just as important as a fish finder. Most of the places you're going to be boating are going to have mapping on them. So when you're out using your graph, you're going to be able to see where you are on the water. Just take a look at this. Now, this is a 5-inch screen. And so if I'm just using one thing at a time, it's not too bad. But if I switch over and I'm trying to look at my sonar and the other at the same time, it's really, really small. The numbers are small. I'm sitting at the driver's seat right now. If I was to back up a little further, it's almost impossible to see. On the Minn Kota, this is also a base package, so it's just got a regular foot pedal. There's no autopilot, so when I'm going down the river, and we've got a really, really light breeze today, but I'm having to constantly make steering corrections. So every time I steer the motor, I have to steer it straight again. So for example, since I started this video, I've had to steer this motor 2 or 3 different times. When you're looking at a boat, going with a base bow mount is not very desirable, whether it's 12 or even 24 volt, because you're going to be stuck to a corded foot pedal. Whether it's at the front of the boat or the back of the boat, you're stuck to a corded foot pedal. Plus, I'm having to constantly steer this motor to hold directional control. So if I'm trying to parallel a shoreline working along this here, or just trying to troll straight, it's really tough to do. I'm stuck having to constantly steer this. So I'm trying to hold that motor as straight as I can, but the wind keeps kind of moving the boat around. You'll see in the next portion of this video when we run the 24 volt iPilot, that Terova on the 24 volt boat, that I'm not going to have to steer it at all. It's just going to do the course corrections that we need it to. So back to looking at new boats. A lot of the manufacturers are going to have a base electronics package. They'll have a 12 volt motor on the bow with a little 4 or 5 inch fish finder. And some of them will offer a fish finder and GPS combo like what Lund's doing here. But this is really kind of the very basics that you would want to get on a boat like this. A 12 volt motor is not going to give us a full day of trolling. Just a single battery setup is just not going to give us the duration that you are going to want to have. Plus, having to steer it constantly, I'm having to monitor what the boat's doing quite a bit. You can see a minute ago we were pointed towards that log. I didn't do any steering input at all, but the wind moved the bow clear over to head towards the bank. So a little bit of a problem there. We'll take a look at the 24 volt motor package next, and hopefully this will help you guys out. Hey guys, this is Dan from Valley Marine again. We are now in a 17-foot 1775 Lund with a Minn Kota 80 Terova iPilot. So now instead of having a foot cord that I have to carry around the boat with me, I have a wireless iPilot controller, and you can see I have it set at 50%. That's kind of a baseline. And I've also set in front of us, there's that same log that was in front of the other boat before. I've got the iPilot locked right now on the heading towards that. And unlike the other boat, I'm not having to steer this thing the whole time. It's locked onto that. It's not locked onto the log, but it's locked onto the direction. I'm not having to steer this thing constantly. So because we're got more power, we're getting closer to that at a much faster rate. So I'm gonna have to steer away from that. One thing to note, when you get an iPilot motor, you only have to steer this thing once. So I'm gonna actually steer towards that other bank over there. I point the motor parallel, or actually, let's just point it straight at that bank. Once I point at it, I don't have to do anything with the controller again. I'm gonna set it up there in the bow, and now that's gonna lock on and take us to that new direction. It's not locking onto a spot on the bank, it's just locking onto a new GPS heading. Nice thing about a wireless controller like this is it's gonna clip to my belt loop, so I'm not having to drag a cord around the boat. It's at my disposal just by reaching down and grabbing a hold of it at my thigh and making a quick course direction or correction. And then it just makes operating the boat a lot easier. So you're hands-free. That gives you the ability to tie up another rod, eat a sandwich, or do whatever else you want to do in the boat. And you're not stuck driving the boat the whole time. The motor's doing that for you. So on this particular boat right here, we have a little bit more of an upgraded electronics package than what you see that most manufacturers are offering. So we've gone from a 12-volt motor without an iPilot to a 24-volt motor with iPilot, and then we've gone from a 7-inch graph to a 5-inch graph to a 7-inch graph. When you go to the 7-inch graph, it's just a lot easier to see, especially if I'm standing back a little bit further. This is a Lowrance hook. It's real similar to the Humminbird Helix you saw in the last video, but it's just a lot easier for you to see. One second, I'm going to make a quick course correction here. We're just going to take and parallel the motor even with the bank, and you can see I've got the head pointed parallel to the bank here, and I'm not going to have to do anything else. I'm going to leave that parallel right there, and then we can shoot the rest of this video and the boat's going to drive itself. So there we are, we're parallel to the bank. I'm going to leave the control right there just so you can see I'm not messing with anything, and we'll work our way back to the back of the boat. So back to the upgraded package. When you're fishing this way, especially for the driver, if you're the driver of the boat, you're responsible for everybody's fun. It's nice to be hands-free and not having to worry about what the boat's doing. It's holding a set distance away from the shoreline. It is giving us the ability to do other things besides drive the boat itself. So it makes it easier to run your rods, to just enjoy your day out on the water. It's a much better experience. And when you're looking at a boat, you want to get a boat set up that makes it fun for you, especially the driver, to go out and have a good time on the water and not have to drive the boat the entire day. So back to a quick summary. 7-inch graph, when you go from a 5-inch to a 7-inch screen, it's going to cost you a couple $100 more. But when you start looking at what you get, it's much easier to see the picture, especially if I'm looking at my GPS screen. You'll see we're not in an area that's mapped right now, but if we were, you would see the underwater topography. It's much easier to see on a 7-inch screen than it is a 5-inch screen. Just an overall nicer experience. It's no different than having a bigger TV in your house or a bigger computer screen. For a couple $100, considering the value of what you're paying on a boat, it's nicer to have the big screen. 7-inch is kind of what we recommend as a minimum these days. And then going from a 12 to a 24-volt package, you know, to upgrade voltage from 12 to 24 is about $500 or so, with the extra battery and the charger and the higher thrust motor. And then to go with the iPilot above the power drive is another $400 or $500. But when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, with this setup right here, I'm probably $1,000 more than I would be for a 12-volt motor. But I have all the power in the world to stay out all day long, and I'm hands-free. When you're buying a boat that's $20,000 to $30,000, spending an extra $1,000 to have a good day on the water really makes a lot of sense. So I haven't had to steer since we were clear back there. This thing's just driven us right up the shoreline. If I'd have had the non-iPilot, I would not have been able to do that. So it's definitely something to consider when you're looking at either equipping new electronics in your existing boat or looking at a new boat. Definitely think about those things, and feel free to respond to this with any questions you have, and we'll put those answers back down on the page below. Thanks.